Hi and welcome to Upsiders Information, and in today's video I will analyze this full moon in Taurus and then we'll see how this can affect the markets, but if you want you can skip ahead using the timestamps below. As a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice, blah blah blah, you know the gist. This is nothing more than astrology, but nothing less either, as astrology reflects sentiment. That being said, I'm glad my presidential prediction was somehow accurate so far, and hopefully it won't manifest the lowest vibration of some of the cosmic alignments, but we're not out of the woods yet, so let's see how things develop until Inauguration Day. In the meantime, the markets had already reacted as expected with a Trump bump, and we'll see if they sustain through the challenges, as there are many moving pieces and fluctuations are also normal. So let's start with the full moon for the collective and the world stage. Full moons are when the sun opposes the moon, so it's oppositions and confrontations, and it's also completions and things reach a maximum peak, or terminations and releases due either to completions or confrontations. And this one can be attributed to the upcoming change of government, yet this full moon is conjunct Uranus, the planet of surprise and expect the unexpected, usually something that is out of sight, out of mind that pops up. And Uranus can be anywhere from upheaval to liberating, depending on the circumstances and your point of view, of course, as the election results, shocking for some, liberating for others. So I don't want to sugarcoat it, nor to be the prophet of doom either. Now, this full moon is on 24 degrees of Taurus, the fixed earth sign, so there's grounding in spite of the shocking element. The moon is exalted in Taurus, so there's an emotional stability in the midst of the whirlwind, like being in the eye of the storm, where you can watch it, but it doesn't touch you, which is a good place to be in the current climate. The new moon is parallel Mars, which has a bellicose tone, and Jupiter is parallel the full moon, magnifying that which hits the fan, whatever that is. Now, the moon is ruled by Venus. This is the planet of harmony and diplomacy, and is in Capricorn, another grounding sign. So this also mitigates Uranus rocking the boat. Though Venus is at the bending of the nodes of fate, like at a crossroad and a turning point between past and future. On an individual basis, this could be related to personal or even professional relationships, where we decide if to hold on or let go of someone. But at a collective/geopolitical level, this has to do with alliances and renegotiating the rules of engagement on a diplomatic level with international relations. And Trump has already spoken about his plans for office, and we already see some international reactions, from the Houthis calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East, to Qatar expelling Hamas, and Hamas calling to end the war, Russia ready to negotiate, and migrant caravans half in size, and now Mexico offering to help with the border crisis as well, and so on. So this is good news regardless of your position, though some don't want to hear it if it comes from the other side. But you can't please all, and this is what this moon is about. And Uranus is sudden change that catches us by surprise, but thankfully is in a harmonious aspect with Pluto, the planet of transformation, and with Neptune, the planet of ideals, but also deception. So we'll see how it plays out. As I mentioned in my previous video, America has been going on through its Pluto return, aka Pluto birthday, that takes 248 years around the sun. And they say empires rise and fall within 250 years. So Pluto brings up issues of independence again, with the final ingress in Aquarius, the sign of the collective, and that happens on the 19th. And it brings up issues of independence from the globalist agenda. Pluto will remain in Aquarius for the next couple of decades, affecting a generation, and that's why these are such pivotal times. Now, Neptune, the planet that has the widest manifestation in the spectrum from the lowest to the highest vibration, meaning the good, the bad, and the ugly, represents from deception and illusion to ideals and spirituality. And it has an orb of 165 years around the sun. So America has been dealing with a Neptune opposition on and off, back and forth, with the direct and retrograde motions of the planet. Since the pandemic, this has been creating a lot of confusion. But every issue is yet another opportunity for mass awakening, which happens in stages and in waves as events have ripple effects on the fabric of society. And as I mentioned before, we're reaching critical mass, which is a catalyst reaction of societal change. Uranus, which we could say is at fall in Taurus, because Taurus is a fixed earth sign and doesn't like upheaval, and Uranus is wild and it feels constrained in this placement. So it releases its pent-up energy when it conjuncts Algol, the fixed star of losing the head, which was triggered by Mars on the first Trump assassination attempt, and recently conjoined for the second time after the retrograde, and will do so again for the third time in spring after it goes direct. So we're not out of the woods yet. But it's almost at the midpoint of the full moon and Algol, which is a sensitive point that could trigger some kind of event with this full moon, which could be revisited again by springtime in its direct motion, as it covers the same area for the third time. And then Uranus will enter Gemini by mid-2025, and historically Uranus in Gemini had come with bellicose challenges during the American Revolutionary War to World War II. And this is due to the rebellious nature of Uranus, and in Gemini is the sign of duality, the two minds, the split. But we'll see how it will play out this time, as wars are very informational these days, and Gemini is the sign of the media, what I like to call the weapons of mass distraction. And after a couple of years, it will approach the US Uranus return for the third time, as it has an orbit of 84 years around the sun, but let's not concern ourselves with that yet. Meanwhile, Saturn, the planet of karma, stations direct, which might feel restrictive or even delay some of the predictions as it rules time. And it will square Mercury, the planet of communication, getting everyone stuck in their thinking like a feedback loop with ruminating thoughts, or getting stuck in beliefs, as Saturn is in Pisces, which rules beliefs. So not much room for conversation here or meeting of the minds, especially as Jupiter, the great magnifier, opposes Mercury, magnifying disagreements. Though is sextile Chiron, the wounded planet, and the victimhood mentality, bringing healing too. Everything happens for a reason or a season, so this too shall pass. And finally, Mars in Leo brings courage, but is in shadow until December 8, where it will retrograde and continue with its opposition with Pluto on and off as it's back and forth until springtime. And this opposition is what you see in the world today, until next eclipse season, where there will be more revelations. Now, on the financial front, we've been parabolic with Trump pump, and full moons are often changing trends or local bottoms, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have some kind of correction, like buy the rumor, sell the news style. So it could retest support levels, which is due. And if so, we'll see how much, as astrology predicts sentiment, while technical analysis predicts price action. And I'm no expert in TA, but I'll link a free training below by Crypto Crew University. And they have alerts too if you don't want to learn and you want the easy way. But for those, you have to pay. Anyway, if we get a pullback, this helps build healthy market structure and give us an opportunity for an entry level for those who miss out and are afraid of being late and want to FOMO in. The reason for a possible pullback is because Uranus rules tech and therefore crypto. So this could affect the crypto markets and take everyone by surprise, very Uranus style, because the nature of crypto is volatile and Uranus is unpredictable. So I like to check the Fear Greed Index and bet against the herd, as it pays off to be a contrarian, since the message catch the drift later on in the game. But this is only short term, since in the long term there's even more potential. So it's good to hold and eventually lock some profits before the cycle repeats and money rotates into other assets and starts all over again. Someone asked me why I do Bitcoin astrology over other assets, and the answer is I have more exposure to crypto than the stock market. And Bitcoin is the leading crypto coin, which follows the SP 500 and the Russell 2000 of smaller cap companies, though it decouples with volatility. And the altcoins follow Bitcoin, but some of those have even more room to grow. Now, there's a lot of astrology and technical analysis charts to look at, and these videos take me quite a bit of time, like over a week to make. So help me in turn with that like button, which only takes you a second. And this tells the algorithm that this content is relevant, so it won't shadow ban me. And to add value, I decided to add a couple of altcoins and an analysis on some recommended stocks by experts in intelligence and geopolitics, which is related with markets. So I combine their expertise with my astro analysis, and when both match, I share it with you. And I'll try to share more assets in upcoming videos, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications not to miss out. Now, for the global markets till the end of the month and until my next video, we have, this November 15 full moon conjunct Uranus, as discussed, is a wild card. So it could be very volatile. But again, it might take a minute to show up. And it trines Pluto, so the surprise could even be another pump. Who knows? Yet Saturn stations direct, bringing changes in trends or correction. So stay in the lookout for opportunities either way. Now on the 17th, the Sun opposes Uranus, which is a challenge. But Mars trines the North Node, so that's positive. And again, we have a mixed bag here. Now, let's see how it will affect Bitcoin. And on November 15, the full moon with Uranus that we just talked about, but it trines Pluto, which could be a good surprise or a good reaction to a bad surprise, like when we had a bank collapse that benefited crypto, for example. On November 18, Mercury squares Bitcoin Uranus. That's a bit of a challenge. On November 22nd to the 29th, Mercury squares Bitcoin Saturn. That's also a bit challenging. On the 26th, Mercury retro, possible trend reversal. And but it looks good till the end of the year. And in 2025 Q1, there are some challenges aspect too. And with global liquidity still low, most inflows in Bitcoin has been institutional, not retail, which means Big Bro is pocketing. So for better and for worse, for reason I explained in previous videos, from regulations to recognition and adoption, ideally Bitcoin was an alternative to the centralized money, but now that the big boys are in, well, you can benefit on price action rather than on an alternative to the system. If you feel you missed out, you could use any pullback as an entry, or alternatively get into Ethereum, which is underperforming and undervalued since the ETF, due to whales like Grayscale ETF Trust selling, since they might not be able to compete with ETF fees. But it has been having some inflows from what seems to be smart money, which tends to happen behind the scene as not to trigger price action, but is finally starting to break out and is still early enough to get in, as it has room to recoup and reach an all-time high. So here is the Ethereum astrology for the upcoming days. Saturn sextile Ethereum Pluto till mid-December, that's positive. The 15th, we have the sign trine Ethereum Mars, which is positive. And then 19, the Sun conjunct Ethereum Saturn, that's not so positive. And on the 21, Sun square Ethereum Venus, that's negative. And then Venus conjuncts Ethereum Pluto, that's a positive. On the 24th, in Uranus sextile Ethereum Mars, which happened around the ETF approval pump and will repeat when direct, extending the benefit into the spring. So that's a good one. And then on the 28th, the Sun will trine Ethereum Sun, which is good, and Venus will square Uranus, a negative, and on the 30th, Sun square Ethereum Neptune, another negative. So some negatives towards the end of the month, but mostly positives, and nothing goes up and down on straight lines, and we're not concerned with the day-to-day, but I give you the heads up so you can have an edge. And for XRP, I have to make a disclaimer here. Nobody's sure about the inception chart. Yes, this is the chart of when Ripple Labs created 10 billion XRP tokens. And XRP has survived the SEC lawsuit of nebulous regulations and overreach. And apparently, Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, has been secretly buying XRP while suing them, which caused a flash out. But now XRP has regulatory clarity, and even Japan is getting involved. So things are turning around. And Jupiter, which represents expansion, is going XRP Venus with the ruler of money on November 25th, 26th, which can result in a pump. And Jupiter retrograde will continue to go over XRP Sun, the soul of the asset, into January, which it did before the retrograde on August 22nd that helped with the lawsuit and price action. And then Jupiter will conjunct the Sun again in February, and after that Venus again, and Mercury too, bringing good news on March. So this looks promising going into the next year, which doesn't mean that it might not suffer from a transitory pullback with the general astro before it pumps. And besides crypto, there are a couple of recommendations by people in the intelligence community. The stock market is high now, is inflated. And if we take the SP 500, there are 7 large capital companies that are leading the index, which are the Magnificent Seven. The Apple, Amazon, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla. But if you check the inside trades, they're selling. And by inside trades, I'm not talking about anything illegal here. Insiders are to make trades public within a time frame, depending if they are a CEO, a politician, or an investor. And you can find that information filed in the SEC.gov site. But this is somewhat cumbersome. So it's easier in the Autopilot app that follows a selection of politicians and investors that you can link to your Robinhood account for automation, so you don't have to bother, though it's limited. And I'll leave the link below. And now they have also partnered with Quiver Quantitative, which you can check out too. As I was saying, what do these people like Warren Buffett know that they are selling? They tend to get out near tops and avoid bottoms, though they don't stress out too much about the timing because they know it's mission impossible. So they get out slowly and ahead of time, not to trigger price action or be spotted. In the meantime, banks are accumulating gold, and now we have a bit of a pullback because it's contrarian to the markets. So this could be a good entry point. And some would argue that you have to have the physical asset, but you can find it in a stock in the New York Stock Exchange. And the recommendation by my undisclosed sources is Barrick Gold Corp, and the ticker symbol is gold. Another recommendation is Prot Uranium Miners ETF. The ticker symbol is URNM. Uranium is used as a fuel for nuclear energy, where it generates electricity through nuclear fission. And the proponents of carbon emissions reductions are realizing that nuclear plants are the only way to reach zero net goals. And uranium is ruled by Uranus, which rules Aquarius. And on the 19th, Pluto, the planet of power and wealth, enters Aquarius, where it will remain for the next couple of decades, benefiting this sector. So these are more long-term holds and a backup against volatility or crashes. And commodities are expected to rise in times of conflict. But again, this is not financial advice, just what I'm considering based on my research and data. Take it or leave it. But if you want more, please like, share, and subscribe so my new channel doesn't disappear in the maze. And if you want a private consultation, reach out to me at upsidersiformation@pm.me. And I will link the link below, and know that I will never reach out to you. Thank you so much for your time. Blessings. See you in 2 weeks and stay tuned. Namaste.